You want to go as a day or as a song?
Let's let the Smith brothers cough up some poems, all right?
It's hard to follow Nick, and it's hard not to follow Nick.
Just don't read.
Yeah, I'm going to not read for about 10 minutes, and then Rob Smith, who's here somewhere, will also read for 10 minutes, and then me, and then Rob. And the first thing I want to do is to read a poem and then have you write a line in this poem. Okay? And I've got...
Has everybody got pens? You need pens, paper, folks?
I've got it right here. I got a pen and a pad and a clipboard. I really came prepared. I didn't know what we were getting into, but I'm still going through with it. You know, you can't stop me. So I'll read the poem that sort of sets it up, and then I'll ask you each to write a line, your most creative line tonight. And then at the end of the reading, we will read. Rob and I will each read the poem that we've written. And I retain all rights to any good lines that might drop through here. I do a lot of work with Zen writing, and Ray and I, Ray McNeice is not here, I see.
I'm here.
I'm still stuck with Nick, you know.
All right, okay.
Ray will be reading at the boat basin in Huron, our first reading there ever, and he'll be
Will I be in a boat?
No.
He'll be near the water on the boat basin. This is Sunday, Father's Day, 1 to 3 p.m. We scheduled you on Father's Day, Ray.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Seeing as my father died when I was 10 and heartbroken.
Here's a couple Zen poems for you. These are written with some Zen humor. I snatch the fruit fly, circling my coffee cup, press him into my palm. Buddhist pacifist killer, caught in morning light. Barcode sticker stuck to my ass. One of those hard plastic ones off my new underwear. I rip it off and toss it away, forgetting to check my diary. And the one that I got from my grandkids was, the baby has Buddha in his mouth. One of those rubber kind from a quarter machine. If you meet the Buddha, eat him. That one always works best. But I've been translating a Japanese poet, Ryokan, and that book will come out this year, so among other things. Russell Salomon, who was here not too long ago, also has a book coming out. I was proofreading it today. Bottom Dog Press is going to publish it. And it's all about being here in a literary cafe and in Cleveland and Tremont and how much he loved it. And after he left it, why not come back and love it, I guess. So here's the poem that sets this up. It's called Someone Somewhere. And it was taken from a line from Adrian Rich, poet, who said, someone somewhere is writing a poem. And just that thought about somebody is, and I guess you do that a lot here, right? Even while people are reading, you write poems. And you can always tell at an open mic they come up with the napkin, you know, and they're writing on the napkin. But I think it's great that people are writing poems. And you know, right now in this city, in this town, down the street, people are writing poems. And it is revolutionary. And I do have an Obama bumper sticker on my car, so you know, I don't want to be political. But it's time for change, right? I believe it. So here's how I took this. Someone somewhere is writing a poem. Right now, as we sit here listening, breathing this moment, and somewhere someone is touching another as they sit in the dark of a car, held to the moment of their kissingness. A porch light comes on, and they laugh. Right now. And somewhere someone is giving birth in the light, taking the pain into the body and giving back love in that little room, right here, right now. Someone somewhere is riding a bike home in the twilight, singing a new song. And someone is combing their hair in the street, waiting for a ride and remembering a dream. And someone somewhere is cutting bread with a knife, handing it a slice at a time into the hands. Right now someone is turning eggs in a pan, and someone is wiping a dish with a cloth, holding it clean in the kitchen light and stacking it there on the shelf. And somewhere someone is telling a story into the eyes of a child and believing it more. And someone downstairs is ironing clothes, folding them, and smelling the warm breath of cotton. I ironed this shirt before I put it on tonight. And somewhere someone is turning the earth with a spade given to them by their father and remembering the things that he said. And someone is lying in the fresh grass, staring up through the tree at the sky and forgetting anything but the night. And someone is counting stars, pointing with the finger of a child at the moon. And right now someone is promising love, promising life forever, right now. Someone somewhere is falling asleep in a chair while the news reports what they think we should know. How some mother's son has taken a gun and fired it into the face of some mother's son. How some children have drowned or set fire to a house. How battles rage in part of the world and suffering burns in the streets. We know. We know. Yet we also know and can never forget that right now someone is holding another, taking them in their arms, kissing their hair and eyes and saying, we love you. Come home. Rest here. You've done wonderful things. We love you. Come home. Rest here. You've done wonderful things. I love hearing that every time I read it. Right now, someone somewhere is strumming a guitar and waiting for the words to sing us all into song. And right now, someone is writing, reading, hearing, moving a poem into being. Right here. Right now. So, you get to write the poem. And we'll read this. And so give it your heart, give it your imagination. It just starts off with someone is, and I left you a nice blank there, and then you write in a couple phrases that'll work with that, and pass it on to the next person, and we'll start these around the room. Nobody's excused from this, right?
Are we graded?
No grade, come on, this is the act of poetry, and why not do it? I'll read a few more and then I'll pass it on to Rob. I heard on the news, I think it was Monday, that Bo Diddley had died. How many remember Bo Diddley? How many not remember Bo Diddley, right?
Parents introduced me. Well, not personally.
The only one who ever turned a guitar into a percussion instrument.
Into a what?
Percussion instrument.
Percussion.
Yeah, well, he started out as a drummer.
Yeah, he kept being.
You can tell it, I think he got into accounting too. I don't know how that fits in, but and he made that guitar, that square box guitar, man, and so this is my tribute to him. Bo Diddley died today. Even that sounds great, doesn't it? Bo Diddley died today. Hey, Bo Diddley. The man who put bonk, the bonk, the bump, bump, bump in rock and roll has left us. Ellis McDaniel, his offstage name, but for us kids in 1950s, he was none other than Bo Diddley. Go, Bo Diddley. Rocking his way home over Pittsburgh radio, WAMO, the only station to play all the bad rockers to us white kids in the steel town. Little Richard, Chuck Berry, Ronnie Hawkins, Jerry Lee Lewis. But the king of them all was Black Bo Diddley, pounding that electric axe of his square guitar, giving us what we lacked and didn't know, an answer, a response. Before you accuse me, take a look at yourself. An anthem, a folk, a pulse, a reason to rock. In 1959, he filled the CIO Hall in Steubenville. In 1960, Boston, we were turned away from his show as two young white boys, and they couldn't turn off his music. As he wore it into our heads on our radios and stereos, it got into our walk and our talk, our grin and bear it looks. I'm a man. We would feel it in our legs and shake our ass out on the dance floor. Sorry, Nick. Hey, Bo Diddley. Come on now, everybody. Tell me, who do you love? Bo Diddley. Bomp da bomb da bomp bomp bomp. Who do you love? Go, Bo Diddley, go. Let's hear it for Bo Diddley. He was bad and we knew it, So I'm going to read a piece about a rock and roll group that I was in the 1950s. Can you believe that I was in a rock and roll group in the 1950s? Played electric guitar, pounded it just like Bo Diddley did, my lessons I took from Doc Watson's Play by Ear. That was my introduction. And I heard the music and I played the guitar to go with the music. You do it by impulse that way. So this is the rock group that I was in. That's 1950s. Rock and rolling in the 1950s. High school rock groups briefly merged into one in a small industrial town. The Vibrations and the Fidels. Our names spelled out our dream. The Vibrations grew out of a band camp, jamming in the men's barracks, playing while whirling majorettes danced before the bonfire. Joey, Rich, Bill, and me. The Fidels had crooned doo-wop in the locker room showers, bounced their sound off restroom tiled walls. Noonie, Donnie, Nick, Guy, John, and Pete. After a month of practicing, that's all it took really, after a month of practicing in family basements and garages, we were ready for our first gig. So we worked extra hours as ushers and fry cooks, or borrowed money from our families to buy the matching shirts, maroon long sleeves at Weisberger's Clothing downtown. Our big gig was a sock hop at the Wigwam Community Center. We came early to set up. 2 amps, 2 mics, 3 guitars, and a set of drums. We were our own roadies. Someday we might have our groupies. Out in the back alley we smoked our last cigarettes. Police cruisers gleamed in the parking lots. Kids played under street lights a block away as the mills roared and the night bessemer spread its orange-pink light. At 10 after the hour, we were introduced, and so strolled out of the back room in our new shirts to a shower of hometown applause. Friends and enemies gathered to measure our sound. And we had it that night, playing our 8 songs from somewhere deep inside, without really trying, in that easy effort of riding a wave. Our intention lay in each note, each beat, each chord change. It echoed off the walls and sunk into the dancing bodies. Doo-wop and rock and roll, rockabilly and rhythm and blues. We played it all, lifting ourselves and our town above the noise and dirt. It rocked and rolled right out of us. We were part of that dream. We were bringing it home. We were making it real. Rock and roll. You know, I still feel every time I write a poem or we do a poetry reading, I'm doing that same thing, making it real, you know. It's like something you feel and you got to go with it and then you try to make it real for other people. So I'm going to stop and let Rob make some things real for you. So my good friend and brother, Rob Smith.
That's my brother Larry. I got another brother, Larry. I'm sorry. He started. I'm a novelist. That's my background. I do enjoy poetry. I've written poetry for 40 years. I had a professor in college who read my poetry, reminded me no one can ever make any money selling it. So I started writing novels. And now you think poetry is bad. You never get invited to a novel reading. It just doesn't happen. You know, it's much. You get poetry readings, they're around, but not many novel readings.
I don't think I've ever been to one.
I've never been to one either. You know, they fall asleep on them real fast.
Bill Gare has
it. So I met Larry about 2 or 3 years ago, and they had poetry readings instead of novel readings. So I read a chapter of my novel one time. He let me do that. And then I read poetry, and he said, "Well, how much poetry do you have?" And I said, "Well, how much do you want?" You know. And so that's when Larry helped put together a book, 256 Zones of Gray. That's my poetry book.
Gee, is it for sale?
It's for sale.
Oh my, that's amazing.
And, I met him 2 years ago, and he helped me back into poetry, and appreciate that. I'm going to read a few poems from 256 Zones of Gray. This is a lot of stuff, and I'm old now, and so a lot of stuff I write about is stuff that Marcus Bales hates. You know, it's outdoors, it's nature, it's kind of nice. And a lot of stuff is remembering my childhood. This was in elementary school, something that made an impression on me. When you were little, nowadays they'd call it child abuse, they wouldn't let you do it, but once a year the nurse would come down to the classrooms, and they'd take the kids and they'd look through your hair with ultraviolet lights. You know, they were looking for cooties, that's right. Now they would say that was somehow porno or something, I don't know. This is called The Edge of Color. My teacher named it Roy G. Biv. I didn't know any Roys except Rogers, and never any Bivs. But this was hardly a stranger to those who asked for the hall light left on and the door open a crack. Visible light was always a friend, but having edges, not just in darkness now, but at R and V. The school nurse would take us in groups down the hall to a small room, 6 at a time. There, in the hushed silence of a violet glow, she'd run a hand through our hair looking for lice. It was the color of the light on the edge of light, a wondrous thing, beauty at the end of Biv. I wanted to return to that room and look again over the edge of color. That's Roy G. Biv. I live in Huron now, just lived there for the last 2 years. My career, I've been around a lot of places. But I moved there because of Lake Erie, a little body of water. Makes the basements damp on the north side of Cleveland. So I'm there because I have a sailboat, and I really like sailing. It is the true religion. This is about meeting seagulls on the water, called Under Sail. The water talks to me in measured rhythms of wave against hull. Its beat stirs a gull from her fascination with a floating meal. She has been wary of my approach, wondering how close I will come, or if my desire is for her prize. The white sails are my wings, but I am bound to the intersection of wind and wave. I can go no higher. Gull knows my earthbound frame. Grudgingly she unfolds her arms, mounting up, embracing sky. She takes to air, circles the mast, and sets down in her place. She cries out to tell me I am only an annoyance. Her voice syncopates the rhythm of the water. I grew up, Larry and I did not know each other until a couple of years ago, but we both grew up in the Ohio Valley. Actually, he grew up in the Ohio Valley. I grew up in the Mahoning Valley, in Youngstown.
Hubbard.
Yeah.
Hubbard Sharon.
Hubbard Sharon. I've got cousins there.
Yeah.
And so, and I lived previously to moving up here in Dayton, Ohio, which is where some brothers were from. They weren't Smiths, though. They were Wrights. And they invented this flying machine. So I was with my stepson. He had a high school thing. He was supposed to write a poem in iambic pentameter. So I said, okay, I'll do it if you do. So we sat down. He never finished his, but this is my iambic pentameter poem called 17 December 1903. Sorry, this is not the way I normally write, but it is iambic pentameter. Along an open stretch of sandy shore, two brothers breathe a dream of human flight. With canvas-covered frame they stood before the wind, which lifted time and forward sight in views unseen by an earthbound race. What fears were theirs who gravity defied, whether stretched on wing or standing in place? The toss of a coin determined the ride, but both held forth on that day to trust unknown. They saw the work of hand and mind revealed when engines sang and wings lifted over foam in birdless flight with human fears concealed. Earth flew on frail wing that December day when sky became a place for human play.
Yeah.
That's iambic pentameter. Here's the same poem.
Good. You should write that more
I
often.
should write
I'm
that.
telling you.
What grade did you get?
That works.
I did. He didn't turn his in. This one is the same poem. It's just kind of shifted genres a little bit. And this is back in the early 1950s in Youngstown, Ohio, where they had just blacktopped the road in front of the house, and it was really smooth. Do you remember that one? That's when you get your bike out and you go down this smooth blacktop. And this one is called Red Huffy, because that was my bike.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Huffy bike.
And my brother was, we were the Wright brothers, we were the Smith brothers actually. He was watching while I was flying. So this is the poem. Pedaling with fury of wheeling sprocket, racing downhill, adding muscle to accelerating free fall. then standing full height, levitating on petals above the earth, hot air rising from freshly rolled asphalt, becoming hot wind rushing over arms outstretched in balance without grip. I am become the cyclist who invented flight. My brother only watches with envy as my red huffy blurs in a jetting streak of imagination. This poem, and I'll read this one, I'll give it back to Larry. This is a poem I wrote on a train. It was going from, we were going to see Europe in 6 weeks, right? And it was, on a map it looked close. Paris didn't look far from Barcelona. It just happened it took the train 12 hours, So we went at night and couldn't afford a sleeper, so we sat up for 12 hours, and this was called Night Train, and it's about being on a train when everybody around you is sleeping and it's dark. Darkness meets darkness at the glass wall that divides the still black of the sleeping travelers from the glittering smooth ebony world that slides past with the clatter of wheels. The night wanders free, consuming light and life, while 2 steel bars stretch to pull me their captive. I open the window. A different blackness meets stale air, and the smell of the land becomes my breath. The night is a part of me. I sleep, then wake. In the distance, a single lighted window, and for a moment I shared that light, and the rails, and then the darkness.